I am Dylan, 21, a junior at University of Michigan, who has worked his ass off since I was 14. Growing up in suburban Ohio, my parents always preached self-reliance, at least to me, my brother Trevor. Different story entirely. I had saved $28,000 through countless shifts, summer gigs, and smart budgeting. That is until that call during finals week changed everything. The call where I learned my parents had emptied my account to buy Trevor a motorcycle. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had family take advantage of your hard work. I grew up in a modest 3-bedroom house in Westerville, Ohio. My dad, Richard, is 52 and has worked as an insurance salesman at the same company for nearly 25 years. He is not the most successful guy in the office, but he brings home enough to keep us solidly middle class. My mom, Karen, is 48 and teaches 3rd grade at the elementary school just 2 blocks from our house. They always described themselves as traditional parents who believed in hard work and responsibility. At least that is what they preached to me. From my earliest memories, I noticed the difference in how they treated Trevor and me. When I was 8 and Trevor was 5, he got a brand new bicycle for his birthday. A shiny red Schwinn with all the bells and whistles. When my birthday came around 3 months later, Dad handed me a refurbished yard sale bike that needed a new chain and had rust spots on the handlebars. "You are more practical," Dylan Mom explained, when she saw my disappointment. "Trevor needs more encouragement to build his confidence." This pattern continued throughout our childhood. Trevor got the new gaming systems while I had to save my allowance for months to buy outdated versions. He got a phone in 5th grade to help him feel connected to friends. I did not get one until 8th grade, and only after I mowed lawns all summer to pay for half of it. "Your brother struggles more than you do" became their mantra, whenever I questioned the disparity. "You are naturally gifted. He needs more support." By the time I reached high school, I had internalized a simple truth: if I wanted something, I needed to earn it myself. So that is exactly what I did. At 14, I started a neighborhood lawn service, mowing 8 yards every week during summer. By 15, I had added snow shoveling in winter, and by 16, I was working 20 hours a week at Kroger during the school year. I maintained a 3.9 GPA despite my work schedule, joined debate club, and still found time for a social life. My parents seemed proud of my independence, often bragging to their friends about my work ethic, but they never acknowledged that I had developed it out of necessity, not choice. When I was 14 and received my first substantial paycheck, $500 from a summer of lawn mowing, I decided to open a savings account. Dad took me to the local credit union, and I felt so grown-up signing the paperwork. "This is a good start, son," he said. "Your grandfather would be proud." Grandpa Williams, my dad's father, had passed away when I was 12, but I still remembered his stories about working his way through college during the 70s. He had always emphasized the importance of financial independence. What I did not know then was that Grandpa had arranged something special for me before he died, something my parents never bothered to mention. Over the next 7 years, I built that account methodically. Every birthday check, every Christmas gift, every paycheck, at least 30% went straight into savings. My friends thought I was crazy for skipping expensive outings or passing on the latest gadgets, but I had goals: graduate college debt-free and have enough for a reliable car afterward. By my junior year of college, that account had grown to just over $28,000. I checked the balance religiously, watching with pride as the numbers climbed. Meanwhile, Trevor took a different path. Despite my parents' constant support and investment, his grades hovered around C-. He cycled through hobbies like seasons, football, guitar, photography, skateboarding. Each time my parents bought expensive equipment that gathered dust after a few weeks of half-hearted effort. "He just needs to find his passion," Mom would say. "Not everyone is as focused as you, Dylan." When Trevor graduated high school last year with barely passing grades, my parents threw him an elaborate party inviting everyone in the neighborhood. They gave him a MacBook Pro as a graduation present, even though he had no plans for college. "College is not for everyone," Dad explained when I questioned this decision. "Trevor is more of a hands-on learner." The truth was, my parents had saved for his education. They just never mentioned saving anything for mine. Thanks to my own savings and a partial scholarship, I managed to attend University of Michigan, where I studied business with a focus on entrepreneurship. I maintained my work ethic, balancing a part-time job at the campus bookstore with internships during breaks. By junior year, I had built connections with professors, joined entrepreneur clubs, and even started developing a business plan for a tech startup I hoped to launch after graduation. Life was busy but good. I had created a healthy balance between academics work and a social life that included a serious girlfriend, Jessica, and a close group of friends. I felt like I was on track building toward my future, one careful step at a time. Little did I know that the foundation I had so carefully constructed was about to be pulled out from under me by the very people who should have been supporting it. Finals week of junior year was already stressful enough without family drama. I had 4 exams and a major group project presentation that could significantly impact my GPA. As a business major with entrepreneurial aspirations, maintaining a strong academic record was crucial for the competitive internships I was targeting. My routine that week was brutal but efficient. Wake up at 6, review notes over breakfast, attend any remaining classes, study at the library until it closed at midnight, then review flashcards until my eyes could not focus anymore. My roommate Marcus occasionally forced me to take breaks, shoving a sandwich in my hand, or dragging me outside for fresh air. You are going to burn out before your last exam. If you do not ease up, he warned on Wednesday night, when he found me still hunched over my laptop at 2 in the morning. Just 3 more days, I promised. Then I will sleep for a week. Thursday afternoon, I had just finished my business ethics exam and was grabbing coffee before heading back to the library when my phone buzzed. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I almost declined the call. I really needed to prep for tomorrow's finance exam, but something made me answer. Hey, Mom. Can I call you back later? I am in the middle of finals. Hi, sweetie. I know you are busy, but there is just a small thing we needed to discuss. It will only take a minute. Something in her voice made me pause. It had that falsely casual tone she used when she was trying to downplay something serious. What is it? I stepped out of the coffee shop line, moving to a quiet corner. Well, it is nothing major. I just wanted to check if you have looked at your bank account recently. My stomach dropped. No, I have been swamped with finals. Why? Oh, it is probably nothing, just maybe take a quick look when you get a chance. And call us back. Now thoroughly alarmed, I hung up and immediately opened my banking app. What I saw made my blood run cold. A withdrawal of $21,000 had been processed 3 days earlier. $21,000. Gone. My first thought was that my account had been hacked. I called the bank in a panic, only to learn that the withdrawal had been made in person at my hometown branch with proper ID, and the security questions answered correctly. The withdrawal was authorized by Richard Williams, the bank representative informed me. He is listed as a joint account holder. My father. When I opened the account at 14, it had to have a parent co-signer. I had completely forgotten that detail, never imagining it would matter once I was an adult. With shaking hands, I called home again. Mom answered but quickly passed the phone to Dad. Hey, son. Your mother said you called about the account. His casual tone made my blood boil. Dad, what did you do? There is $21,000 missing. Now, Dylan, do not overreact. We needed to borrow some money for a family expense, and we knew you had quite a bit saved up. Borrow. You took $21,000 without asking me. Well, your brother needed a reliable vehicle, and we found a great deal on a motorcycle. Top of the line, Kawasaki Ninja plus all the safety gear. Trevor is absolutely thrilled with it. I could not believe what I was hearing. You spent my savings on a motorcycle for Trevor. We are all family, Dylan. We help each other out. Trevor needed this. He has been so down since his friends all went off to college. This will give him the freedom to find a decent job and get his life started. That was my money. My voice had risen enough that students at nearby tables were staring. I lowered it to an intense whisper. I worked for 7 years to save that money. And we are very proud of your work ethic, Mom chimed in, apparently now on speakerphone. But family supports family. We will pay you back eventually. Eventually, I need that money for next semester, for rent and books, and you have always been so resourceful, Dad interrupted. We are sure you will figure it out. Maybe take out a small student loan like normal college kids. I was speechless, my mind racing through the implications. Without that money, I would struggle to cover my senior year expenses. My scholarship only covered partial tuition. The campus job barely paid enough for groceries. I had been counting on those savings. I have to go, I finally said, unable to continue the conversation, without saying things I might regret. Do not be dramatic, Dylan Dad replied. We will discuss this more when you come home after finals. I hung up and sat frozen, unable to process what had just happened. Around me, students laughed and chatted, celebrating the end of exams or commiserating over difficult questions. My own world had just imploded, and nobody had noticed. I do not remember walking back to my apartment. Marcus found me sitting on my bed, staring blankly at the wall. Whoa, you look like you saw a ghost. Failed an exam. When I explained what happened, his expression shifted from concern to outrage. That is straight-up theft, man. I do not care if they are your parents. You should call the police. They are on the account. Technically, it is legal. Legal does not make it right. Marcus sat beside me. My cousin went through something similar with his aunt. Just because someone is family does not give them the right to steal your future. He was right, but the thought of taking legal action against my own parents seemed unimaginable. Besides, I still had 2 more finals to get through somehow. Focus on finishing finals, Marcus advised. Then deal with this shit. One crisis at a time. I tried to follow his advice, but concentration was impossible. I stared at textbooks without absorbing anything. During my finance exam the next day, I read the same question 4 times before understanding what it asked. My carefully constructed study schedule fell apart as I spent hours researching my legal options instead of preparing for tests. Sleep became elusive. I would lie awake, replaying the conversation with my parents, thinking of all the things I should have said. When I did sleep, I had nightmares about debt and failure. By the time my last exam ended on Saturday, I was running on caffeine and rage. I packed my car for the 4-hour drive home, determined to confront my parents face to face and make them understand the magnitude of their betrayal. The drive from Ann Arbor to Westerville gave me plenty of time to rehearse what I would say to my parents. I cycled through approaches: calm, reasoning, righteous anger, guilt-inducing disappointment. Nothing felt adequate to address the enormity of their betrayal. Jessica called twice during the drive, a welcome distraction from my spiraling thoughts. Remember to breathe, she advised during our second call. You have every right to be furious, but do not let anger make you say things you will regret. I just cannot believe they did this, I said for probably the 20th time since it happened. $21,000, Jess. How do they expect me to finish my degree? Focus on getting the money back first, she said practically. She was right, of course. Jessica was studying psychology and had a knack for breaking complicated emotional situations into manageable steps. That was one of the many reasons I loved her. Call me after you talk to them, she said before hanging up, no matter how late. It was just past 6 when I pulled into the driveway of my childhood home. The first thing I noticed was the gleaming black and green motorcycle parked prominently near the garage, a brand new Kawasaki Ninja, exactly as Dad had described. My stomach clenched at the physical evidence of what my years of saving had been converted into. Mom opened the door before I could even knock her smile too bright, too forced. Dylan, we were not expecting you until tomorrow. Come in, come in. Are you hungry? I made lasagna. Her attempt at normalcy was infuriating. Did she really think we could just have a nice family dinner, as if nothing had happened? Before I could respond, Trevor bounded down the stairs and out the front door, heading straight for his new motorcycle. Dylan, check out my new ride, is not it awesome? He ran his hand lovingly over the sleek chassis. 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. Dad said I can take you for a spin if you want. Looking at Trevor's genuine excitement, I realized he had no idea where the money had come from. My brother could be self-centered and entitled, but he was not malicious. This was on our parents. Maybe later I managed brushing past him into the house. Dad was in his recliner watching a baseball game. He glanced up briefly. Good drive. Roads clear. The casual greeting made my blood boil. Were they really going to pretend? Nothing had happened. Dinner was an exercise in restraint. Mom chattered about neighborhood gossip while Dad asked generic questions about finals. Trevor dominated the conversation with details about his motorcycle, describing features I had unintentionally paid for. The dealer threw in the premium helmet for free, he boasted. Said they do not usually do that, but Dad is a great negotiator. I pushed lasagna around my plate, barely eating. My silence eventually created an uncomfortable lull in conversation. Is everything okay with your finals, honey? Mom asked, her voice carrying forced cheerfulness. You seem distracted. I set down my fork carefully. I am not distracted. I am trying to figure out how I am going to pay for my senior year now that you have emptied my savings account. The table went silent. Trevor looked confused, glancing between our parents and me. What is he talking about? He asked. Dad cleared his throat. Your brother is being dramatic. We borrowed some money from his savings for your motorcycle. We will pay it back eventually. Borrowed, I laughed bitterly. You took $21,000 without asking me. That is not borrowing. That is stealing. Watch your tone, Dad warned. We are still your parents. That account was opened under our supervision. I was 14 then. I am 21 now. That money represented 7 years of work. My work. Mom jumped in, her voice placating. We know you worked hard, sweetie. And we are so proud of how responsible you have always been. That is why we knew you would understand that family helps family. Your brother really loves that bike, Dad added with a smirk. You should be proud to help him out. Something about his smug expression made me laugh. A genuine, unexpected laugh born of pure disbelief. Dad's face darkened. What is so funny? I took a deep breath, suddenly calm. You know what is funny. You have no idea what that money actually was. What are you talking about? Mom asked, looking genuinely confused. That account was not just any savings account, I explained slowly. That account was actually matched by Grandpa Williams before he died. Dad's smirk vanished. What he asked, his voice suddenly uncertain. Grandpa made an arrangement with the bank before he died. For every dollar I saved, he had arranged for a matching dollar to be added from a trust he set up. He wanted to reward my hard work. The bank manager told me about it on my 18th birthday. I thought you knew. This was not entirely true. Grandpa's arrangement had been more complex. He had established a trust that added 50 cents for every dollar I saved, not a full match. But the account had indeed been specially set up by him, a fact the bank manager had revealed to me when I turned 18. I had assumed my parents knew about it since they had taken me to that specific credit union to open the account. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Richard, did you know about this? Dad's face had drained of color. Dad never said anything about a matching fund. Because he knew you would try to control it, I said. He told the bank manager not to reveal the arrangement until I turned 18. He wanted to encourage me to save on my own merits, not because I knew I was getting extra. This part was true. According to the bank manager, Grandpa had been very specific about the terms. Trevor looked between us, finally catching on. Wait, so the money for my bike? It was some special account from Grandpa. Yes, I confirmed. Money that was meant to help me start my business after college. Money that Grandpa specifically set aside to match my hard work. And now it is gone, converted into your motorcycle. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom had tears streaming down her face. Dad stared at his plate, the muscle in his jaw working overtime. Trevor looked stricken, glancing out the window at his beloved new bike with fresh eyes. I did not know, he said quietly. I swear, Dylan, I did not know. I believe you, I said, and I meant it. This betrayal belonged to our parents alone. Dad finally found his voice. We will figure something out. We can get a loan. Or what, I interrupted. Sell the motorcycle that has already depreciated the moment Trevor drove it off the lot. The damage is done, Dad. You took money that was not just mine, but Grandpa's investment in my future. I stood up from the table, no longer hungry. I'm going to call Grandma Williams in the morning. I think she should know what happened to her late husband's trust fund. As I walked away, I heard Mom's muffled sob and Dad's desperate Dylan wait. But I had nothing more to say. The truth was out, and for once, I was not the one who needed to explain himself. I spent a restless night in my childhood bedroom surrounded by the academic trophies and achievement certificates that had always made my parents so proud. The irony was not lost on me. They had always encouraged my success, just not enough to respect the fruits of it. By morning, my anger had crystallized into resolve. After a quick breakfast where I avoided eye contact with my parents, I called my grandmother from the privacy of the backyard. Grandma Williams had always been my staunchest supporter. At 81, she remained sharp as a tack and fiercely independent in her condo across town. When I explained what had happened, her reaction was immediate and fierce. "They did. What with your savings?" Her voice rose with indignation. "And Richard knew that his father set up that matching fund for you." "He claims he did not know," I explained. "But the bank said they sent annual statements about it." "Oh, he knew," Grandma said firmly. "Your grandfather made sure of it. Richard just conveniently forgot when it suited him." "I am coming over." No amount of protest could dissuade her. An hour later, her Lincoln Continental pulled into our driveway. Dad's face went pale when he opened the door to find his mother standing there, her small frame radiating righteous fury. "Richard James Williams," she said, using his full name like he was 10 years old again. "We need to talk. All of us. Now." The family gathering in our living room felt like a tribunal. Grandma took the armchair, what we had always called the throne, due to her tendency to hold court from it during holiday gatherings. Mom and Dad sat uncomfortably on the couch. Trevor perched on the piano bench, looking like he wanted to disappear. I stood by the fireplace, arms crossed. "Your father would be ashamed." Grandma began fixing Dad with a glare that made him flinch. "William worked his entire life to build something for this family, and he specifically wanted to encourage Dylan's work ethic through that matching fund." "Mom, we did not realize," Dad began. "Do not lie to me, Richard. I helped William set up that trust. The bank was instructed to send quarterly reports to you as the parent until Dylan turned 18. You knew exactly what that account was." Mom looked at Dad in shock. "Richard, you knew." Dad's shoulders slumped. "I got the statements, but I did not think it was that much money. The last time I checked years ago, it was only a few thousand." "Because Dylan was still in high school then," Grandma pointed out. "He has worked many more hours since then, and the matching continued." "How much did you take exactly?" "21,000, I supplied." Grandma's eyes widened. "So with the matching fund, that means Dylan actually saved over $14,000 himself through high school and college jobs." She turned to my parents. "And you thought it was acceptable to take that from him? We were going to pay it back." Mom insisted, though her voice lacked conviction. When Grandma challenged, "And how you two can barely keep up with your mortgage." This was news to me. I had always assumed my parents were financially stable, if not wealthy. The conversation expanded to include extended family as news spread. By evening, my phone was buzzing with messages from aunts, uncles, and cousins, most expressing support and outrage on my behalf. Dad's brother, Uncle Stephen, called to offer me a loan to cover my expenses, which I gratefully accepted until the situation could be resolved. Trevor, meanwhile, was processing his own role in the drama. That evening, he knocked on my bedroom door, his expression uncharacteristically serious. "Can we talk?" he asked. I nodded, making space for him to sit on the edge of my bed. "I feel terrible," he began. "I had no idea the money came from your savings, let alone some special account from Grandpa." "I know you did not," I assured him. "No, but I should have questioned it." He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "I mean, where did I think $20,000 for a motorcycle came from? I never thought about it. I never think about where anything comes from." It was perhaps the most self-aware statement I had ever heard from my brother. "It is not your fault," I said. "This is between me and Mom and Dad. Still, it is my bike. I should do something." "Like what?" He hesitated. "I could sell it. Give you the money back." The offer surprised me. Trevor had never willingly given up anything in his life. "You love that bike," I pointed out. "Yeah, but it is not right. I did not earn it. You did." For the first time in years, I felt a genuine connection with my brother. Let me handle Mom and Dad first. We will figure out the bike situation afterward. Meanwhile, my parents were growing desperate. The next morning, Dad cornered me in the kitchen with a proposal. Your mother and I have been talking. We can pay you back a little each month. Maybe $500 to start. The math did not add up. That would take over 3.5 years to repay Dad. We know it is not ideal, but it is the best we can do right now. When I did not immediately agree, his approach shifted from conciliatory to manipulative. After everything we have done for you over the years, he said, his voice taking on a wounded tone. All the sacrifices we made. Your mother driving you to debate tournaments. Me, helping with science fair projects. Is this how you repay family loyalty? Family loyalty. I echoed in disbelief. You stole my savings. Borrowed, he corrected. And only because we knew you would want to help your brother if you were here. Then why did not you ask me? He had no answer for that. Mom tried a different approach that afternoon, catching me alone in the backyard. We just want our family to be whole again, she said tearfully. We made a mistake, but dragging Grandma and everyone else into it is tearing us apart. You tore us apart when you took my money, I replied. I am just dealing with the consequences. But what about your brother? He is devastated, thinking you hate him now. The attempt to use Trevor as an emotional pawn backfired. Trevor and I talked. He understands this is not about him. Their attempts to manage the situation extended beyond our immediate family. Dad called Grandma, trying to convince her to see their side. Instead, she revealed the conversation to me, more convinced than ever that her son needed to face consequences. Your grandfather always worried that Richard did not understand the value of money, she confided. That is why he set up separate trusts for you and Trevor with different conditions. This was new information. Trevor has a trust. Yes, but his does not unlock until he turns 25, and only if he completes certain educational requirements. Your grandfather wanted to make sure Trevor had incentive to grow up. She sighed. I am not sure Richard ever told him about it. The revelation added another layer to my parents' betrayal. Not only had they taken my money, but they had potentially kept Trevor in the dark about his own future financial support. As days passed, the impact on my parents' reputation became evident. Mom mentioned awkward encounters at the grocery store with friends who had heard about the situation. Dad grew increasingly defensive as colleagues at work made comments. The small-town grapevine was working overtime. Meanwhile, I faced a growing crisis regarding my education. Without those savings, I would struggle to cover tuition and living expenses for my senior year. My campus job would not be enough. The partial scholarship covered only a fraction of the costs. I spent hours on the phone with the university financial aid office, exploring emergency loans and last-minute scholarship applications. The stress began affecting my health. I developed insomnia, spending nights staring at the ceiling, calculating and recalculating numbers that never added up to enough. My appetite disappeared. Jessica worried about my weight loss during our daily video calls. You need to resolve this soon, she urged. One way or another. The uncertainty is killing you. She was right. Something had to give. A week into my summer break, I reached a breaking point. The constant tension at home had become unbearable. Mom alternated between tears and passive-aggressive comments. Dad fluctuated between defensive anger and uncomfortable silence. Trevor walked on eggshells around all of us. It was time for decisive action. Through a connection from my business internship, I arranged a consultation with a lawyer named Michael Brennan. He reviewed my case in his downtown Columbus office, his expression growing increasingly troubled as I explained the situation. Legally, this is complicated, he admitted. However, he continued, leaning forward. There are aspects of this situation that could constitute financial abuse, particularly given your age and the existence of the trust component. What are my options, I asked. We could send a formal demand letter as a first step. Sometimes the mere involvement of legal counsel is enough to prompt action. If that fails, we could potentially file a civil suit alleging breach of fiduciary duty, especially regarding the trust portion of the funds. The thought of taking my parents to court made me sick to my stomach, but I had run out of alternatives. Mr. Brennan drafted a letter demanding full repayment within 30 days, outlining potential legal consequences if the demand was not met. When the certified letter arrived at our house 2 days later, all hell broke loose. A lawyer. Dad exploded, waving the paper in my face. You sicked a lawyer on your own parents. You left me no choice, I replied, maintaining the calm demeanor Mr. Brennan had advised. You have had multiple opportunities to make this right. This is how you repay everything we have done for you, by threatening to drag us to court like criminals. What you did was criminal, Dad. Taking money that did not belong to you. We are your parents. Everything we have ever done has been for you and your brother. Mom sobbed in the background. How will we face our friends, the neighbors? If this goes to court, everyone will know. They already know, I pointed out. You made sure of that when you took my money to buy Trevor a flashy motorcycle that everyone can see parked in our driveway. Dad's face reddened dangerously. If you go through with this lawsuit, you are no longer welcome in this house. Is that what you want? To destroy your family over money? I did not destroy our family. You did that when you betrayed my trust and stole my future. The ultimatum hung in the air between us. I had anticipated this reaction, but hearing him actually threaten to disown me still hurt more than I wanted to admit. What happened next surprised us all. Stop it, Trevor shouted, stepping between us. Just stop it, Dad. We all turned to stare at my brother, who rarely raised his voice, especially to our father. This is insane, Trevor continued. Dylan worked for that money. It was his, and Grandpa's. We had no right to take it. Dad looked stunned. Trevor, we got that motorcycle for you. You love that bike. Not enough to cost me my brother. Trevor turned to me. I am selling the motorcycle. I already called the dealer to see what they would give me for it. They will not give you anywhere near what we paid, Dad protested. I do not care, Trevor insisted. It is the right thing to do, and... He hesitated, glancing at me. Dylan and I talked. He told me about Grandpa's trust for me, the one that unlocks when I am 25. Is that true? The color drained from Dad's face. Who told you about that? So it is true. You never planned to tell me, did you? Mom stepped forward. We were waiting for the right time when you were more mature. More mature. Trevor laughed bitterly. I am 18. How am I supposed to become more mature if you keep treating me like a child? If you had told me about the trust, maybe I would have made different choices. Maybe I would have tried harder in school, knowing there was something to work toward. His words hung in the air, a damning indictment of our parents' choices. The situation reached its climax 2 days later at Grandma Williams' house. She had called a family meeting insisting that everyone attend. When we arrived, we found not just Grandma, but also the family lawyer, Mr. Harrington, who had handled Grandpa's estate. I have asked Harold to join us because it seems there has been some confusion about William's intentions for his grandsons. Grandma explained, her voice steely despite her frail appearance. Mr. Harrington, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses, opened his briefcase and extracted several documents. William Williams was very specific about the financial provisions for his grandsons, he began. For Dylan, he established a matching fund tied to a savings account, believing that rewarding work ethic was the best gift he could provide. He slid a document across the coffee table to my father. This is the notification that was sent to you when the account was established. As you can see, it clearly outlines the terms. Dad stared at the paper, unable to maintain his claim of ignorance. For Trevor, Mr. Harrington continued, a separate trust was established, accessible at age 25, contingent upon completion of either a college degree or a certified vocational training program. Trevor looked stunned. So I could access it with a vocational certificate. It does not have to be college. Correct, Mr. Harrington confirmed. Your grandfather recognized that traditional academia is not for everyone. He simply wanted to ensure you developed marketable skills. I never knew that, Trevor said, quietly shooting an accusatory glance at our parents. Grandma Williams spoke up. I have made a decision. Since your parents have compromised Dylan's fund, I am adjusting my own estate planning. I had planned to leave my assets equally to Richard and his family, and to my daughter Barbara and her family. Instead, I will be establishing direct trusts for Dylan and Trevor that cannot be accessed by their parents under any circumstances. Dad looked stricken. Mom, you cannot do that. We are family. Family does not steal from family, Grandma replied firmly. I love you, Richard, but I cannot condone what you have done. This is the consequence. The final confrontation came when we returned home. Dad backed into a corner and, faced with consequences from his own mother, made one last desperate attempt to maintain control. This has gone far enough, he declared. I am still the head of this household. I made what I thought was the best decision for our family, and I will not be vilified for it. Dylan, you will drop this lawsuit nonsense. Trevor, you will keep your motorcycle, and both of you will show some respect and gratitude for everything your mother and I have sacrificed for you. It was the same old script, but this time I was not backing down. No, I said simply. What did you say to me? I said no. I will not drop the lawsuit unless you repay the money. All of it. Not in monthly installments over years, but now. You stole from me, Dad. From me and from Grandpa. That is not love or family or sacrifice. That is selfishness. How dare you? He is right. Trevor interrupted, standing beside me in a show of solidarity I had never experienced before. What you did was wrong. And making it right is not optional. It is necessary. Mom, who had been quietly crying on the couch, finally spoke. Richard, we have to fix this. We have to find a way to give Dylan his money back. All of it. Dad looked from her to us, his face cycling through anger, disbelief, and finally defeat. For the first time in my life, I saw my father's shoulders slump in genuine surrender. I never meant. He began, then stopped. I thought I was doing the right thing for Trevor. I did not think about what it would mean for you, Dylan. I did not think. It was not exactly an apology, but it was the closest thing to admission of wrongdoing I had ever heard from him. We will find a way to pay you back, he continued. All of it. I promise. I did not know whether to believe him. After years of watching him favor Trevor, and days of watching him deny responsibility, trust was in short supply. But it was a start. How, I asked, practically. You said yourself you can barely afford the mortgage. He hesitated, then said the words. I never thought I would hear from my proud father. I will ask for help. From my mother. From my brother. I will take out a home equity loan if I have to. Whatever it takes. In that moment, the power dynamic in our family shifted permanently. Dad was no longer the unquestioned authority figure. He was a flawed man who had made a serious mistake and was finally willing to acknowledge it. I looked at Trevor, who gave me a small nod of support. Then I turned back to Dad. I will hold you to that promise, I said. Every penny. True to his word, Dad began taking immediate steps to rectify the situation. The very next morning, he called the bank to inquire about a home equity loan. The house had built up decent equity over the 20 years they had owned it, enough to cover the amount they had taken from my account. The interest rate is higher than I would like, he admitted when he returned from the bank 2 days later. But they approved us. For $25,000. That covers what we took, plus a bit extra to help with your fall semester expenses. I was surprised by the additional amount. You do not need to add extra. Yes, we do, Mom insisted. It is the least we can do after everything. Within a week, the money was transferred back to my account, $21,000 plus an additional $4,000 as a gesture of restitution. I immediately moved it to a new account at a different bank, one where my parents had no access. The relief of seeing that balance restored was overwhelming. Trevor, meanwhile, had made his own decision. I am still selling the motorcycle, he told me as we sat on the front porch one evening. I cannot keep it knowing where the money came from. Dad got the home equity loan, I pointed out. Technically, they have paid me back. It is not just about the money anymore, Trevor explained. It is about me growing up. I have never earned anything significant in my life. Everything has been handed to me. And look where that has gotten me, 18, with no real skills, no education plans, and no direction. It was the most insightful self-assessment I had ever heard from my brother. "What will you do instead?" I asked. "I talked to Uncle Stephen. He says his construction company is hiring apprentices for their electrical division. It is a 4-year program, paid training while I learn a trade. By the end, I will be a certified electrician." "That sounds perfect for you," I said, genuinely impressed. "You have always been good with your hands. And it fulfills Grandpa's requirements for my trust," he added with a small smile. Education does not have to mean college. True to his word, Trevor sold the motorcycle the following week. He did not get the full value back. The dealer offered $16,000 for a bike that had cost $21,000. But he accepted it without complaint. Instead of giving the money to our parents to help with their loan, he opened his own savings account. "First step toward being responsible," he explained when I asked about it. "I am going to save for a used truck for work. Something practical that I actually need." As June turned to July, I prepared to return to Ann Arbor for a summer internship I had secured before the savings account drama. The night before my departure, Dad asked to speak with me privately in his study, the room that had always been his sanctuary in our house. "I want you to know something," he said, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "I am proud of you. Not just for your grades or your work ethic, but for standing up for yourself. Even against me. Especially against me." I did not know how to respond. Compliments from Dad had always been rare, and genuine admissions of his own failings were unprecedented. "Thanks," I managed. "Your grandfather would be proud too," he continued. He valued integrity above almost everything else, something I seemed to have forgotten somewhere along the way. He opened his desk drawer and pulled out a small wooden box. This was his. "He wanted you to have it when you graduated college, but I think you should have it now." Inside the box was Grandpa William's pocket watch, a vintage Omega that he had carried every day of his working life. He carried this through medical school, through his entire career as a surgeon, right up until he retired, Dad explained. It was his reminder that time is the most valuable thing we have, and how we spend it defines us. The gift was unexpected and deeply meaningful. I knew how much Dad had treasured this connection to his father. "I will take good care of it," I promised, carefully closing the box. "I know you will." He hesitated, then added, "I am sorry, Dylan. Truly sorry for taking your money, for not respecting what you built for. A lot of things over the years. I have not always been the father you deserved." It was the most honest conversation we had ever had. Not everything was forgiven. That would take time, but it was a beginning. Returning to campus was both a relief and a challenge. The familiar environment of Ann Arbor felt safe after the emotional turbulence at home. But I still carried the weight of what had happened. Jessica noticed immediately when we reunited. "You look different," she observed. "More. I do not know. Solid somehow." "I feel different," I admitted. Like I finally stood up for myself after years of just accepting things. I shared the full story with my closest friends, something I would have been too embarrassed to do before. To my surprise, several had experienced similar family financial conflicts. Marcus introduced me to a campus support group for first-generation college students and others navigating complex family dynamics around money and education. The group meetings became a valuable outlet, a place where I could process my complicated feelings about my parents without judgment. Through these conversations, I began to understand that my story was not unique. Many families struggle with boundaries, expectations, and financial ethics. My relationship with my parents entered a new phase. Our weekly phone calls became more authentic, if sometimes awkward. Dad provided regular updates on Trevor's apprenticeship program, which he had started in August. Mom sent care packages to my apartment, but no longer asked invasive questions about my spending or savings habits. The most profound change, however, was in my relationship with Trevor. We began texting regularly, sharing updates on our very different lives. He sent photos of electrical panels he was learning to wire. I shared my business school projects. For the first time, we were developing a relationship as adults rather than as rivals for our parents' attention. By the time Thanksgiving break arrived, I felt ready to return home. The house looked the same, but the dynamics within it had fundamentally changed. Dad consulted me about financial decisions. a tacit acknowledgement of my proven judgment in that area. Mom made efforts to treat Trevor and me with equal consideration. Trevor had matured noticeably in just a few months of working full-time, developing a quiet confidence I had never seen in him before. That fall also brought new professional opportunities my way. A professor in the entrepreneurship program introduced me to a nonprofit focused on financial literacy for high school students. They were looking for college interns who could relate to young people about money management. "Your personal experience would be valuable," the director told me during my interview. "Many of our students come from families where financial boundaries are blurry or non-existent. Having someone who has navigated those waters successfully could make a real difference." I accepted the position and found unexpected fulfillment in helping teenagers understand concepts like saving compound interest and healthy financial boundaries, even with family. Without realizing it, I had found a way to transform my painful experience into something positive for others. As my senior year progressed, I continued building safeguards for my financial future. I established a separate emergency fund at a bank with no branches in my hometown. I created a detailed budget for my final semesters. I researched the legal steps to ensure that my assets would be protected after graduation. These practical measures were important, but the emotional growth was equally valuable. I learned to advocate for myself without apologizing. I practiced setting boundaries with family members. I discovered that I could love my parents while still holding them accountable for their actions. Perhaps most significantly, I recognized the power of vulnerability. By sharing my story first, with friends, then with the support group, and eventually with the high school students I mentored, I transformed a private shame into a source of connection and healing. When the spring career fair brought recruitment opportunities, I found myself drawn to companies with strong ethical foundations. My interviews often touched on my experience with financial education and my passion for helping others develop healthy money habits. By March, I had secured a position with a financial technology startup that aligned perfectly with my values and goals. As graduation approached, I reflected on how dramatically my life had changed in the span of a year. The painful betrayal that had nearly derailed my education had ultimately strengthened my resolve, clarified my values, and even helped shape my career path. "Sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead us exactly where we need to go," Jessica observed as we discussed our post-graduation plans. "Not that that makes them okay when they are happening." She was right. Nothing could justify what my parents had done. But I could acknowledge that navigating the aftermath had made me more resilient, more compassionate, and more determined to create the life I wanted on my own terms. It has been exactly 1 year since that fateful call during finals week. I am now weeks away from graduating with my business degree, preparing to start my job at the fintech company, and looking forward to moving into my first post-college apartment with Jessica, who will be starting her master's program in psychology this fall. The journey from that moment of shocking betrayal to where I stand today has been transformative in ways I never could have anticipated. In the immediate aftermath of discovering what my parents had done, all I could feel was the acute pain of betrayal and the anxiety of financial uncertainty. Those feelings were valid and necessary. They fueled my determination to right the wrong that had been committed and to protect myself from future harm. But as the months passed and the situation resolved, those raw emotions gradually gave way to deeper understanding, not just of my family dynamics, but of myself. I began working with a counselor through the university's mental health services initially just to process the anger I felt toward my parents. Those sessions expanded to explore patterns that had existed in our family for generations. My father's competitive relationship with his own father, my mother's conflict, avoidance, the golden child, scapegoat dynamic between Trevor and me. Understanding these patterns did not excuse what my parents did, but it helped me contextualize their behavior and eventually find a path toward forgiveness that did not compromise my own boundaries. Support groups became another crucial element of my healing journey. Sharing my story with others who had experienced family financial abuse helped normalize my experience and reduce the shame I had initially felt. These connections reminded me that family conflicts around money are remarkably common, though rarely discussed openly. Perhaps the most surprising development has been the transformation in my relationship with Trevor. Without our parents' differential treatment constantly reinforcing our roles as rivals, we have discovered genuine common ground and mutual respect. Last month, Trevor called to share that he had been selected for an advanced training opportunity within his apprenticeship program, a recognition of his natural aptitude for electrical work. The supervisor said, "I have really good spatial reasoning and attention to detail," he told me, pride evident in his voice. "Things that made me struggle in traditional school actually make me good at this job." "That is awesome, Trev," I replied, genuinely happy for him. "Grandpa would be proud." "That is what I thought too," he said quietly. "I keep thinking about how he set up those trusts for us differently because he saw something in each of us that maybe even Mom and Dad did not see." His insight struck me as profoundly true. Our grandfather had recognized our different strengths and created support systems that would nurture those specific qualities. My disciplined work ethic. Trevor's hands-on intelligence. In doing so, he had demonstrated a deeper understanding of who we were as individuals than our own parents had shown. As for Mom and Dad, our relationship has evolved into something more honest, if sometimes uncomfortable. They have maintained their promise to repay the money, even making the last few months of payments early by taking on extra work. Dad picking up weekend shifts, selling insurance at a kiosk in the mall, Mom tutoring after school. The family dynamics have shifted permanently. Dad no longer assumes automatic authority in our conversations. Mom has become more direct about her feelings, rather than resorting to passive-aggressive tactics. We are learning awkwardly but sincerely how to relate to each other as adults. Grandma Williams remains a steadfast presence in all our lives. She has become a mentor to me in ways I never expected, sharing wisdom about everything from investments to relationships. Her integrity during the crisis reinforced lessons about standing firm in one's principles, even when it means confronting family. "Family loyalty should never require you to compromise your values," she told me during one of our regular Sunday phone calls. True loyalty means holding each other to the highest standards, not the lowest. The financial lessons from this experience have been equally profound. I have learned that financial independence is not just about having money, it is about having control over that money and the boundaries to protect it. I have discovered the importance of diversifying not just investments, but the very institutions where I keep my assets. And I have recognized that financial literacy is a form of self-defense that everyone, especially young people, desperately needs. My work with the Financial Literacy nonprofit has evolved into a passion project that I plan to continue even after starting my full-time job. Helping high school students understand concepts like compound interest emergency funds and healthy financial boundaries gives purpose to my own painful experience. Last week, a 17-year-old in the program approached me after a workshop on family financial dynamics. "My parents always take my birthday money and say they are keeping it safe," she confided. "But I never see it again. After listening to you, I opened my own account at a different bank. They do not know about it yet." Her small act of self-protection filled me with pride. If my story helps even one young person establish healthier financial boundaries, then some good has come from my family's crisis. As I prepare to walk across the graduation stage next month with my parents Trevor and Grandma Williams in the audience, I find myself reflecting on the person I have become through this ordeal. I am stronger than I knew, more resilient than I imagined, capable of standing up for myself, while still offering compassion to those who have hurt me. These qualities will serve me well in whatever challenges lie ahead. The pocket watch that belonged to my grandfather sits on my desk as I write this. Its steady ticking reminds me that time moves forward relentlessly, carrying us through both painful chapters and moments of triumph. What matters is not what happens to us, but how we choose to respond with integrity, with courage, and with the determination to build something meaningful from even our most difficult experiences. Have you ever had to confront a family member who betrayed your trust? How did you handle it? And what did you learn from the experience? Drop a comment below sharing your story. Your words might help someone else going through something similar right now. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. And remember, sharing these videos helps others feel less alone in their family struggles. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the most important boundaries we set are with the people we love the most.